Mr. Sullivan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This deputation concerns the city budget. I also agree with the previous deputation that the line items of 103,000 and 46,000, which is 0.15%, these amounts were necessary to allow her to continue her work, and I'm opposed to any reductions in the amount set aside for what council agreed was a climate emergency. I know that the numbers you're working with were enormous, and the numbers you're working with are scary, but we've just come through a period of where inflation was over 8%, and you're not asking for an 8% increase. You're asking for less than 8. So you've done a really good job. I just agree that we need to focus on the things that will matter in the future, and not necessarily on building more parking lots. I'd like to thank the city treasurer and her staff for stepping up when it came to this item. I subscribe to all the notices the city puts out from its website. I got one on Thursday, February 15th, advising that council would be finalizing the budget today and the budget documents would be available on February 23rd. And if I wanted to comment, I had to do so by February 20th. You folks all know the catch-22 that is the city of Stratford. I contacted Mrs. Kruger's office and asked how I could view the final proposal. She advised that the Finance Committee had made its recommendations at various meetings. I looked for the minutes of those meetings. They are not yet available. So I let Mrs. Kruger know. Her office then prepared for me a summary of the changes. I was very thankful that she did this one-page summary, but it was not made available until after the 20th. So it was not something I could use to comment on the budget by the deadline that the clerk had set for commenting on the budget. But I knew I could always make a deputation, or so I thought. The clerk has quietly changed the rules for deputations. Until last year, requests for deputations had to be in by noon on the day of the meeting. She has changed the rule book to require that such requests must be made by noon on the business day prior to the council meeting.
If I could, Mr. Sullivan, could we pertain to the budget piece?
It is, because this is how I'm
going to give you some leeway.
Please, thank you, because this is an important aspect of this.
In a moment, I'll bring it to a close.
All right.
Thank you.
I don't have much left. There was no notice of that change by the clerk, so I can't tell you when it was made, but it was different last year. It's now changed. And as a result of the date of the time that the agenda was published, which was 12:07 on Friday, nobody under those rules could ever depute on what was in the agenda, because the agenda came out after noon on the business day prior. So it would be an impossible. Now, I thank the clerk's office for allowing me to depute today on this in spite of the new rules. But I would like to draw to council's attention that the rules may make it impossible for people like myself, ordinary citizens, to actually come and speak to you, because the rules have been changed to a new catch-22.
Once again, I'm going to ask you to...
All right. My suspicion is that this is trying to speed things up by not having as many people here. But I don't think that council really intended, because I know you all campaigned on transparency and accountability, I don't think this is deliberate on the part of council to make it more difficult for people to speak to council at meetings. Thank you very much.
It's. I apologize, Miss. It's not a question. It's just a comment on the. Yeah, thank you.
Wait one moment. Councillor Seven, I see your hand.
Thank you. I just had a comment, just a general comment for context for that council. We did have fulsome discussion about the position, the climate position that was being talked about, and we sort of worked through that in the budget meetings. So I'd encourage anybody to sort of go back and look at that discussion if they're interested in.
Thank you, Councillor Seven. Next item.